One of the next components I'm looking to put together for my 286 system is a sound card. It seems like I have the main system running, I have keyboard, mouse, I have video output running 640 by 480. Probably the next then logical thing is for me to get in, probably two things come to mind, but sound card is one of them, and then some form of storage beyond an SD card, and I'll come back to that in a different video. I'm not really sure where that one's going to go yet, but floppy or hard drive, flash drive, something that can act as persistent storage for whatever type of operating system I might eventually get to. As far as sound card though, I've previously built some sound cards, and I think I'm going to just use the latest sound card that I had built, which is probably a little unnecessarily high in component count maybe. And so definitely look for feedback if anybody here has suggestions for maybe ways to simplify or do something different that you think I should consider. Let me know. But I think what I'm going to use is this open ISA slot on my system. And you can see the size of the system and the VGA card that I have. It's pretty large. I have a sound card that's not quite as big as that VGA card, but it's pretty close. And this is what the schematic for that sound card looks like. Now, I had used this in my 65816 build, and it has some of the important things that I need. Well, first of all, it has an ISA slot edge connector, so it's meant to plug into an ISA slot. I'm not exactly following the ISA standard on that though, so I do have to go back and update the schematic to really work with my 286 system to properly follow ISA as far as I'm going to use it for this sound card. But then the sound card actually has its own, I'll call it an audio coprocessor. It's a 65816 processor on the sound card so that it can independently be playing without the 286 host having to control every little bit of it. And so with that onboard coprocessor comes ROM and RAM and address decode. And I'm doing an address decode up there with a PLD, so it's a GAL 22V10, and I think I would just continue to use that on this. And then I have a small dual port RAM, and that's just to facilitate communication between the host system, in this case it'd be a 286, and then the sound card. So I can basically queue up requests for the sound card for it to do certain things. Sound card then can pick up that queued command and process it while the 286 goes back to doing whatever it was doing. I then have three versatile interface adapters or VIAs. One of them is used for an SD card, which will show up above, and then the other two are used to control the actual sound generator chips, or in this case, programmable sound generators, and I'm using 6 of those, and I happen to be using on this card the Yamaha YM2149s. There's alternates that are drop-in compatible with that, but that's the one that I'm going to use. I have quite a few of those on hand, and I think I'll use that. And what is the other one? An AY38910 I think is another alternative I could use. But this is going to go with the YM2149. And then I have that SD card up above, so I can plug in lots of storage for media. And I also have an additional ROM that you're seeing off to the right that just lets me store media. So I can play back media from the SD card or from the ROM, or have it pumped in from the 286 host system. And when I say media, that could be songs, it could be music effects, sound effects, whatever it might be. This is what that then looks like. So it's a pretty full card, and I would completely redo the PCB on this as far as routing and all of that, because I think I've learned a bunch of things since I had put this together way back when. So I think I can improve this card as far as maybe shrink it down a little bit, not a lot because there's not a lot of free space on it, but maybe do a better job with routing and power distribution, things like that, things that I've learned maybe how to do a bit better. And this is what the last version of it that I actually built looks like. And you can see everything on here that I'm using. A lot of these, again, these Yamaha PSGs. I had an issue with my I had some of these wires or some of the connections backwards onto my dual port memory. This is dual port static RAM down here. So I have an interesting little, had to do some pulling up pins and swapping the order of which those pins connected down to the PCB, but that of course would get fixed. There's going to be an oscillator for the 65816 processor, and then there's also an oscillator that drives these Yamaha chips. And I could maybe get creative and do some sort of a counter to break that down and run a single oscillator, but this setup has all worked pretty well. So this is what I would pretty much intend to build or refresh and have it work in my 286 system. Now, a couple reasons for that is, I've already got this functionality technically there. It just has to be slightly modified to work in the updated bus for this 286 system that I'm working with versus somewhat specialized. I kind of did my own thing on my 65816 build as far as how I use the ISA physical connectors, and it's not necessarily following the ISA protocol. Something else is with this card, I've got a bunch of other supporting stuff that goes with it. And if I just take a look over here on my blog, I can go to where it says audio and get a list of just some of these audio posts that I have. And in here, for example, you can come in and take a look. This was from, looks like May of last year. But I give a little bit of recap, and then I talk through, basically that system or that working in my 65816 system. But if I back up, I've got a post on just how I create music for this card, and I've got quite a bit of stuff that I've actually built for just surrounding tool sets. So I can come in here with a tool and I can lay out, which channel plays which notes, and I've got a way to graphically choose the notes, and I can even scroll all the way down here. I've got a tool now that lets me take music XML that I can download off the internet and import that into my tool. So I don't have to really build all of this content from scratch. I can start with some music XML, import it, clean up whatever my import doesn't get quite right, but then have music that I can play back. And then I can also, maybe just show you some of the sound stuff I've worked on as I've worked through this, So I started really simple with this, just Monkey Island. So you get the point there. And then I worked into some different things, and like here's good old Zelda, and just using a single PSG, so just one of those chips. And then I had worked into maybe a Mario Brothers that was using a single PSG, and at this point I was still cleaning up quite a bit of stuff, so the quality's not great on this, but it's a start. And so obviously some notes aren't quite perfect and things like that. And then I got into some other types of music. This one was using 2 PSGs, so I was kind of increasing the complexity of the audio playback. But then I eventually got down and did a redo of this Mario, and so this one's using 4 PSGs, so there's 12 channels of audio content in this. But it still leaves me, in this case, 2 more PSGs. So in this case, I have this song only leveraging 4 of the PSGs, and each PSG has 3 channels. So that gives me 12 channels that I can play, whether it's left, right, if I want to break it into a stereo breakout, or just have 12 mono channels. But the card will support 18 channels. So I can get in here and do some pretty, I think, capable things with that sound card. So that's why I think I'm going to use that sound card. It has pretty much everything I should need. I've got tool sets started to work around it to help me build music, and I think that's what I'm gonna try getting going in my 286 system here. So definitely interested in any feedback or thoughts on that. But I think that is the path I'm going to go. And maybe in the coming week, I can update that PCB to support my 286 and get those PCBs ordered up and see if I can get some sound going. It's been a little while since I worked on any of the sound stuff, so I'll have to probably refresh my memory too on some of my own tools that I built for it. And in the meantime, as I'm waiting for PCBs for this and such, I can be working on assembly, which I have an unending amount of assembly I can be doing for my 286 system. What I've recently started looking at is all of the different software interrupts that I probably should start trying to support. Everything from make a cursor visible to hide a cursor to setting the video mode, etc. And I'll have limitations on my video card as far as what I can actually do there, but we'll see what I can come up with.